Before we start this video, one of the topics we're going to be talking about today is the NFL awards. It says Gurley to Detroit. Obviously, that's a typo. I must just been thinking because we will be talking about the Pistons today. So it should say Gurley to get MVP or something that has to do with him getting MVP. So sorry about that. Let's get with the video. What's up, guys? Mr. Octagon here from Octagon Gaming. Now, I just hurt my arm and my back from trying to do the wiggly worm on my bed, but that's besides the point. We have another Octagon podcast here today. So, yeah, we're going to talk a lot about the NBA because there's a lot of juicy stuff going on. Trade deadline is just around the corner. And, yeah, so we're going to start off with some unfortunate news. Back on Friday, DeMarcus Cousins, he tore his Achilles and will be out for the remainder of the season. Now, what happened was the Pelicans were playing the Rockets. They were up by 20 in the third quarter, but they almost blew it. And if they didn't almost blow it, then DeMarcus Cousins wouldn't have had to been in at the end of the game, and none of this would have happened. This has a major impact on the NBA. Of course, there is a chance of him getting traded, so he's not getting traded. Also, in free agency, he's probably not going to get as big of a contract. He's probably going to get less money or a short-term deal, like 1 or 2 years. Now, if he's not committed to the Pelicans are getting nothing for him, and they're pretty much screwed. So, this is a huge deal. I think it can have a big impact on what happens in free agency. If some teams decide not to offer him, or if he's not committed to New Orleans or some other team, because we didn't get to see much of AD and Boogie. Only about a year. So, we don't know what Boogie's going to do. No clue. Now, they're definitely not going to trade Anthony Davis, because then they're just going to be without any good big man. And today, they almost traded for Nikola Mirotic for like a future first-round pick, but the trade did not fall through. I guess because of like some salary stuff or whatever. I guess they had to throw in like Omar Ashik, and the Bulls don't want Omar Ashik, which, to be honest, I wouldn't want Omar Ashik's contract either. So that certainly sucks for the Pelicans. Probably the Pistons got Nikola Mirotic instead of Blake, but that's beside to the point. Some more NBA injury news, as John Wall will be out for about 2 months. This was announced today with a knee injury. He will have knee surgery. And the Wizards, that's not good for them. Of course, the Eastern Conference got better yesterday with the addition of Blake Griffin. So it's going to be harder for the Wizards to make the playoffs. I think they are the 6 or 7 seed. I don't have the standings up on me right this second, but Celtics, Raptors, Cavs, Heat, Bucks, and Wizards, I think, are 5 and 6. And then Pacers, Sixers are 7-8, and then Pistons are 9. So the Pistons are better with Blake. The Bucks have been playing well with their new coach, and the Sixers have probably the easiest second half schedule in the NBA. So all three of those teams are charging ahead, and that's not good for the Wizards. So of course John Wall is going to be out, and this is not good because I think Tim Frazier's probably going to be starting at point guard or some scrub. So now the keys are handed to Bradley Beal, which Bradley Beal isn't a bad alternative, but obviously John Wall's a better player than Bradley Beal. But Bradley Beal is a good player. He did make the All-Star team this year. Also, hopefully Andre Drummond makes the All-Star game for John Wall because Pistons represent. Alrighty, now we have the awards. I'm going to be talking about Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and, of course, the Most Valuable Player. So, starting with the Rookie Awards, the Offensive Rookie of the Year certainly has a few candidates. Juju, sort of. Leonard Fournette, sort of. Deshaun Watson, don't really know if you can consider him because he only played in like 6 or 7 games. I think it's going to be down to Alvin Kamara and Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt did lead the NFL in rushing yards, but remember, Zeke did last year, and he didn't win Rookie of the Year, and Zeke had a better rookie year than Kareem Hunt. And I'm going to give it to Kamara anyway. He made Mark Ingram better. He made the whole offense better. Without him, the Saints would not have been anywhere near as good as they were. He didn't have the most rushing yards, but he had a lot of rushing and receiving yards, as well as touchdowns, which shows sort of his versatility and balance of not just running the ball. I guess kind of like, don't really want to say Matt Forte, but I know he was a good receiving back when he was with the Bears. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Tre'Davious White puts up a good fight, but Marshawn Lattimore, it's pretty easy. The Saints' defense has certainly transformed with Marshawn Lattimore. Their defense has been abysmal the past few years, and now their defense is good. So, Offensive Player of the Year, I think you can consider all the MVP quarterbacks, like Tom Brady or Russell Wilson or even Carson Wentz, or a skill position player like Todd Gurley or Antonio Brown. But I'm going to give this one to Todd Gurley. Regardless, Jared Goff is the quarterback, but I think he transformed the Rams' offense in a way. Him, Jared Goff, and Sean McVay all made it better. But Gurley, I think he led the NFL in touchdowns. I'm not sure. I know he led in scrimmage yards. And he just made a lot of big plays and was a very key player of that Rams offense. Defensive Player of the Year is down to 2 for me. Calais Campbell and Aaron Donald. And this is certainly a tricky one. But I'm going to give it to Aaron Donald simply because he's the most dominant player in the NFL. Calais Campbell is great this year at making the Jaguars' defense so good. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey, Telvin Smith, A.J. Boye each had a part in that. Yannick Ngakoue, Malik Jackson, even Paul Posluszny, the old middle linebacker, Miles Jack, Deshaun Gibson. The list goes on of great Jaguars defenders. But I'm giving it to Donald because he was the most dominant player in the NFL. He's been the most dominant player ever since he arrived. And yeah, so I find it kind of funny that both of the rookie awards go to Saints players and the offensive player and defensive player of the year awards go to Rams. It's just a little funny. And coach of the year, by the way, I have Sean McVay. But for MVP, as much as I hate to say it, I think it's going to go to that Tom guy who is a cheater. I think he's going to MVP. I'm not saying he deserves to win MVP. Honestly, I think Russell Wilson deserves it because without him, the Seahawks offense would have been by far the worst. Their leading passer, their leading rusher. But I think they're going to give it to Tom. Hopefully they don't. Now we're going to be talking some baseball about a month away until spring training. And the free agency has been very quiet. Not a lot of big names like J.D. Martinez or Eric Hosmer or Jake Arrieta, Yu Darvish. None of them have been signed. We've seen a few trades like the Giancarlo one, but this Thursday, 2 big moves happened, both by the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers, I think, had 86 wins last year and finished 1 win away from the playoffs after not being a great team the past few years. Last year, they were led by a great start by Eric Thames, but he seemed to cool down a little bit. But they made 2 big moves. The first one, I forget which one happened first, but I'll just talk about Christian Yelich first. Christian Yelich was traded to the Milwaukee Brewers, or the Marlins have traded everyone in the Big Four this offseason. I guess Big Four, I don't really know what to call it. D. Gordon to the Mariners, Giancarlo to the Yankees, Marcell Ozuna to the Cardinals, and now Christian Yelich, the last surviving member of the foursome, to the Milwaukee Brewers. Very young, talented player. I could see him hitting, maybe not first, because that's definitely where Jonathan Villar should hit, as a very, very fast hitter. Speedster, good average. I could see Yelich, I like that second spot, and then their third hitter maybe could be Lorenzo Cain, who they signed to a 5-year, $80 million deal. He was with the Brewers a while ago, but traded back in 2011 with a bunch of players, including Alcides Escobar, to the Kansas City Royals for Zach Greinke. Zach Greinke, I don't think he was ever that great with the Brewers. I think he's in Arizona now. And the Royals obviously ended up getting a World Series with the contributes from players like Lorenzo Cain, Alcides Escobar, etc., etc. But I think this is a great move. I could see him hitting third in the lineup and then Thames hitting fourth if he continue what he had going at the beginning of last year. And can the Brewers make the playoffs? The NL East, that's a 1-team division with the Nationals. The other 4 teams are laughingstocks. In the NL West, a few teams are up for consideration. The Dodgers got Kutch, who I love Andrew McCutchen, by the way, and Evan Longoria in the offseason. The Diamondbacks just made the playoffs. The Rockies just made the playoffs. The Dodgers were 1 win away from the World Series. By the way, I predicted the Dodgers would have at least 100 wins at the beginning of the season. And the Padres, they suck. That's 4 teams in the West that very well could make the playoffs. And then looking at the NL Central, the Cubs are obviously very good. They just won the World Series a couple years ago, and they almost made it this past year. So they're very good. The Cardinals, they got Marcell Ozuna in the offseason, so they're better. And the Brewers are certainly a contender as well. Pirates and Reds, they kind of suck. I've talked a lot about the Blake Griffin trade in the past 24 hours. Of course, as a huge Detroit Pistons fan, I don't like the trade, but I am kind of excited to get a star caliber player. And after thinking about it, I think both teams lost the trade, to be honest. The Pistons, I think, traded way too much. Avery Bradley does not count because he was going to go at the end of the year. So basically, we traded a GOAT, a mid-first round pick, and a 25-year-old player who certainly has all-star potential. I'm not saying he ever will, but he very well could be an all-star or a fringe all-star player. We will have to pay him in a couple off seasons if we kept him. So I guess we didn't really trade too much, but we are locking ourselves into Blake, which scares me. $37 million for the next 5 years for an injury-prone player. The past 3 years has not made the all-star team and has not stayed healthy either. He's never made it out of the second round. And yeah, that concerns me. I don't think coaches or teammates are particularly huge on Blake as well, which certainly is a concern. Very similar concern for Josh Rosen for me in the NFL draft. But will he work in Detroit? I think he certainly can work in Detroit. DeAndre Jordan and Andre Drummond are two very similar players. I'm not saying they're identical, but they're very similar. Reggie Jackson is a very talented point guard, so Lob City can sort of happen. And other than that, they're sort of like the Pelicans when it comes to not much wings and not much depth, which certainly concerns me. Hopefully, Blake does not tear his Achilles next year. That would kind of suck. It's not like he's a free agent, though, since we're locked into him, which concerns me. And why I don't like it for the Clippers, I do like that they're trading Blake and starting a rebuild. I said they should have done this at the beginning of the offseason. Now they're finally listening to me. But I think they got too much to help them right now. Avery Bradley is probably not going to be in their future, and he helps them now. Tobias Harris might be in their future, and he helps them a lot now. And they got a GOAT. So I don't think this will help them too much when it comes to getting a top pick in the draft. Hopefully for them, they can. They have Jerry West. Jerry West knows what he's doing. He is a very, very good executive. He helped the Lakers get Kobe and Shaq. He helped build the Warriors dynasty with Steph, Clay, Draymond, now Kevin Durant, the Snake. So Jerry West knows what he's doing, and if I was a Clippers fan, I'd be confident. They're going to trade DeAndre Jordan and Lou Williams probably any day now. So we've got to keep our eye on for that. And the last topic is certainly, I guess, a happier one than some of the injury things we've been talking about. We're going to be talking about Shaky Griffin today, the star linebacker for UCF. I found out a lot about him from KTO. Go sub to him. Very good channel. If you don't know who he is, he's from Mike Corzembo Football. If you don't know who that is, then you should sub to both of them because they post great, great content. But Shaky Griffin has been a very dominant player for UCF. A big reason why they are undefeated. Phenomenal player. And the thing about him is he has one hand. I don't want to go in the full story because I don't have time. As I said, go watch KTO's video about it. But he's had a great past few seasons with UCF. His brother, Shaky Griffin, he was a third-round pick for the Seahawks, and he's had a pretty good rookie year, I'd say. So can Shaky make it to the NFL? He is getting an invite to the Combine, so I'm really rooting for him. Very hard worker, an extremely talented player. I'd love to see him get drafted. I'd love to see him in a Lions uniform, and I root for him. I wish him nothing but the best. Helped UCF transform their program. They were just 0-12 a couple years ago, and now they were undefeated. So, UCF for the college football play. No, just kidding. But make sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm out. Peace.